Good morning. This morning, we are going to go over a live that the Skinner family, actually, it was Tamra and Mrs. Skinner, Chris's mother, had done last night on YouTube under the channel Assure Impact. And if you've missed it, I suggest you go and watch the actual live. The name of the channel again is Assure Impact, ASSURE Impact. I'll try to put that down in the chat if I remember correctly. Sometimes I have trouble remembering. But what I did was I went through for you. I went through the show and did some analysis and bullet points like I usually do. And then I have an interesting bit of information, some facts at the end of it for you. That I think the coroner herself was actually, hinting to in this very show that they did last night in one of the recordings. Now, if you watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So from the very beginning, and let's start from the beginning. They mentioned that Fitz News. Now, I got to tell you, and I'm going to cover it, not today, but I will cover it probably tomorrow. I'll try to cover it tomorrow. Fitz News, I think, did a wonderful article regarding the Chris Skinner case. I liked it. It was, they really just covered everything you could imagine about the Chris Skinner case, really covered it very well. However, I have to take the Skinner family side on this one. I would not share the witness testimonies just because I have a feeling this is going to make it into a courtroom, and I wouldn't want to compromise the integrity of any court case that may come up. And I would think that might happen if you share the witness statements. So if Fitz News, you happen to be listening to me, I would hope that maybe you'd want to rethink sharing those statements. In the aftermath, maybe after the court case, you want to share it, that's one thing. But before there be a court case, I really wouldn't share those statements yet. That's just my opinion, and I do agree with the Skinners on that. So I just wanted to get that out there. So first, let's start off with why did they wait so long? Now, this just makes me laugh. That's such a typical flying monkey question. Asking the Skinners why they took so long in saying something. First of all, here's my answer. You want my answer? Here you go. Not sure why anyone feels it's their right to even ask this question, no matter who you are. Whether you're Susie or a Solid Rock member, a friend of John Paul, if you're John Paul, if you're a flying monkey, if you're somebody walking down the street, if you're somebody in the grocery store, I don't care who you are. Why does it matter if the Skinner family chooses to ask now, yesterday, tomorrow, 10 years from now, or whatever, information about their brother or their son's death? Why is it your business? Why does it matter to you? Why do they have to go according to a calendar that you make up in your head? There is no set frame of time that they should go by because you think that it makes no sense to me. Help me figure this out. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old here, okay? Because I don't understand why you even ask a family that question. And whomever you are that asked that question, from my mouth to your ears, you're a moron, okay? So let's just get that out there. And I'm mid-coffee right now, so I really mean that when I say that. Number two, it's obvious on why they would be asking this question. In light of Micah's passing and all that was coming out from that investigation, there was obvious new questions, as if I had to explain this to you, and you had the IQ of a turnip, that would bring new questions in about Chris's death and anybody else's death for that matter that surrounds the Millers. Like, like tinsel around a Christmas tree. This is what dead bodies are like around the Millers anyway. Okay. So, I don't know why that question was even asked. So, if you're a flying monkey and feel you need to ask those questions, please go take a vacation. We're tired of you. Okay. Now, I just want to make for clarification, if you do end up watching the video of Tamra and her mom, the term intentional act is another term for self-unaliving. I don't want it to be misconstrued for homicide, because that's not what they're talking about. They're actually talking about Chris's intentional act. This would be Chris intentionally doing that. So that's what she was talking about, okay? So now another thing that's mentioned is they say honoring her wishes. So what they're speaking about is initially they were honoring Susie's wishes by not mentioning or communicating the potential that Chris would have done this to himself. This was Susie's wish, that this was not communicated, discussed at all. And his family, being kind. See, I'll tell you what, I come from an Italian family. We're all from New York, as you can tell. We would have told Susie where she can go and how she can get there if this were my brother. So God bless the Skinner family. They're just way too kind. If this were my brother, I would have said, yeah, you don't want me to communicate that? Why? Why don't you want me to communicate that? But anyway, I digress. They were nice enough to think about her feelings during this time because why? She would have been his widow. And they're, I guess, thinking about her grieving. They're considering the children. They took a lot of people into consideration except for themselves. Now they're finally thinking like a family and going, you know what? Maybe we do need to look into my brother's or my son's passing because there's too many questions that are unanswered. And I can see why, there's so many unanswered questions because when you've got Myrtle Beach Police Department doing the interrogating, or if that's what you want to call it, investigation, you really do need to look into it. Now, one of the things that the mother had said, and I want to bring this out because it's important, the night of Chris's death, the mother had an AFib attack. It was her very first one, which is an atrial fibrillation. And with that comes symptoms of irregular rapid heart rate, dizziness, fatigue, palpitations, shortness of breath. So she had to kind of step back. Now, anxiety or stress can significantly contribute to and even worsen the symptoms of AFib. So she really had to step back from the stress and of the grief of losing her son. Can't even imagine what that's like. So Tamra took this all on herself. And imagine that, having to take on the grief of your brother, losing your brother, the grief of your sister-in-law, the grief of your two nieces, and then on top of that, being attacked by the flying monkeys. I mean, that's a lot to take on. What really opened up the Skinner family to many people coming to them with information, what really started to flood in them to start questioning, well, maybe we need to look more into this, was Micah's obit. And the reason why is that after this obituary had come out about Micah, extended family and neighbors and even Chris's children started to question about Chris's death, started to ask questions. What really did happen? So this was what made them start to look into it. Now, again, I said, on a Sure Impact, all you have to do is go on there. The video is available and you can watch it for yourself. But I'm breaking it all down. Now, what they did was they wanted to make very clearly, Tamra and her mother, what kind of person Chris was. And this is why a lot of us had a lot of difficulty believing that Chris would do this to himself. But for clarification purposes, let's break it down, okay? Chris was a motivational speaker, but it was a lot more than that. Okay, he was also a father, a husband, and a Christian. He was a brother and a son. Okay, he was inspiring. He was able to make a positive from a negative, in a very negative situation, may I add. He was very productive, faithful. He was accountable. You know, his mother mentions that the accident that he was in that changed his life like this was because I guess he got into the car with a person who had previous DUIs, and this is why this all happened to begin with. And instead of sitting there and sulking and being depressed because of his condition, he made this into an inspirational ministry. He was also responsible. He was a responsible father and husband. He was honest and truthful. He showed bravery, obviously, strength, absolute strength. 21 years, by the way. This is not like he was doing this for a year. 21 years. Encouraging to many others. He was a public speaker, very friendly to other people. Do you know what kind of bravery it takes to speak in front of other people? You know, I remember going to class to learn how to do public speaking. I remember my professor had said that many people had said they would rather, die than to give a public speech, because that was the kind of fear standing in front of other people. They just couldn't handle it. And so you had to be a very special person. You would have to be able to face that kind of fear, you'd have to have a special kind of strength. And in Chris's condition, not only did he have that kind of strength to face people in public, but he was facing them with a challenge, okay, and then having to inspire them while inspiring himself. That's a lot. You've got to have a very strong psychological and emotional stance to be able to even do that. At the same time, you want me to believe that this man was going to throw that all away, including his children, the love he had for his children, the love he had for Jesus Christ, the love he had for his mother and his father and his sister, in one shot, just all of a sudden, on a day he chose to get together with his family. He was just going to throw that all away. But I digress. Let's just say that that's what happened. In a small instance, he made this choice, okay? Now, without having to look at the manner of death, okay, he did communicate sadness. Who wouldn't be sad? Who wouldn't be sad that your partner, who said that they love you so much that they made a commitment, a lifelong commitment, had children with you, who's supposed to feed you and take care of you, make sure that you're clean, tells you that they love you, all of a sudden decides they're not going to do that for you anymore. They're not going to feed you. They're not going to care for you anymore because they are interested in someone else. And that someone else isn't just some guy around the corner. This is supposed to be a spiritual leader, someone who was put into a position where they're supposed to care about you spiritually. Okay, so you got one person who is supposed to care for your spiritual need, and the other person who's supposed to care for your emotional and physical need, and both have betrayed you. And they're betraying you together. You wouldn't be sad? Of course you'd be sad. I think that's a very small and insignificant word to describe it. That kind of betrayal is beyond the word sad. I would be beyond sad. I'd be broken. And I've been there. I've been broken. And by the way, I'm still here. I didn't go and end it. I found my way back from it. You know why? Jesus Christ. But here's the thing. If Chris was communicating these feelings, if he was really feeling this way, Susie says on her on her interview, I'm the one that took care of him. I'm the one that fed him. I'm the one that was with him every day. Then why didn't you protect him from himself? Why didn't you put up protective barriers from him harming himself? Why, if you knew that the medication that he took would make him tired, why didn't you give it to him the night before? You knew he couldn't take the medication on his own. So why didn't you give it to him the night before? Why did you give it to him that morning? And if you knew they made him that tired, why did you allow him to go to the pool? If you knew they made him tired. If you knew he felt that way, why did you allow him to go to the pool? Did you not care? Were you that self-absorbed that you did not care? Or was it possible that with all this sadness and all this depression, that there was somebody in your life that could have taken advantage of this opportunity to get rid of that threat? So you could have used that sadness as an excuse, and someone else could have used that opportunity to get rid of him. Because, that person doesn't like to be challenged now. Now, the Myrtle Beach Police Department interviewer, he's as professional as the bag boy at Publix, okay? He totally lacks professionalism. No questions about insurance or insurance payouts. No questions about any affairs going on or any marital issues or problems. No questions about Susie's care or lack thereof, or what kind of, emotional state that Chris was in weeks or days before. Nothing about that. But he was more concerned about saying that Tamara got caught up with, conspiracy theories that were going on YouTube, and she got all wrapped up in it. But don't worry about it. I wouldn't worry much about it. It won't go anywhere. Don't worry about it. See, that's what he was concerned about. No, he's not in anybody's pocket. Now, when one of the recordings that they had played on this video last night, and it sounded like it was a conversation between the lead investigator of Myrtle Beach Police Department and the chief of police, if I'm not mistaken, where they're acknowledging that Susie had lied about it being only an accident and that there were no family in the area. So she's a liar. Okay. Now, why would she lie? Why would she lie about those things? Why would she lie when his father lived in the house? Why didn't she tell them that? Remember, this was the same woman who was more concerned about getting his DNR while they were trying to save him. Okay, he's right there in the ambulance, taking him out of the water, putting him in the ambulance, trying to save him. They're in the midst of life-saving, procedures, and she's concerned about running back to the house to find that DNR. Stop, don't save him. I've got a DNR. And she expected them to stop. Thank God they said, no, we're not going to stop until we see that DNR. But she expected them to stop. This shows you the mindset that she was in. Okay. Now, the accountability that the coroner says that she's looking for is for her to be charged. And there is that probability. Now, I'm going to tell you what I found. Okay. And then we'll go into the chat. Because as you can tell, I haven't really been paying attention to the chat. According to South Carolina Code 43-35-85F, a person who knowingly and willfully neglects a vulnerable adult, resulting in that adult's death, is guilty of a felony and upon conviction must be imprisoned for not more than 30 years. If intentional hygiene, meds, or nutrition, for example, she can be prosecuted under this statute. Additionally, South Carolina Code 16-3-60, which is considered involuntary manslaughter, this would be reckless disregard for the safety of another resulting in their death, which could carry an additional 5 years in prison. So we're looking at a potential 35 years of imprisonment for Susie. And I think that's exactly what they should seek, because it's already been proven through testimony. I mean, Chris has said it to various people. Mother can testify, others can testify that she stopped feeding him, bathing him. She's admitted he didn't take the meds before the night before, but said that morning. There's an obvious affair going on because his ex-wife acknowledges it. They acknowledge their relationship after Micah, passes away. So there's, other people can acknowledge it as well. I'm sure the feds by now have been able to prove there's been a relationship going on the whole time. So whether we can, putting aside the remote control possibility, okay, controlling the wheelchair. If you remember, I had brought up John Paul painted himself into a corner. And the reason why I said that was that no matter how it turned out, manner of death, he's responsible. This is the same for Susie. Susie Skinner has painted herself into a corner. No matter the manner of death, whether it be by a remote control wheelchair by her stupid idiot boyfriend, or it be by her neglect and driving him to the point where he was so down, to the point where you would pull a man. Let me rephrase this. Let me not rephrase, but let me remind you once again. This is a motivational speaker who inspires. He's productive, he's faithful, he's accountable, he's responsible, honest and truthful, brave. He's a public speaker and very friendly, encouraging to many others. For 21 years, he had been doing this. And all of a sudden, he is brought to the very, very lowest point that a human can be brought to where he wants to take his own life. This is not just some regular Joe. This is someone who went around, couldn't use his arms, couldn't use his legs anymore. Young man, handsome, good-looking guy. And could no longer do the things that he loved to do. He's obviously very active beforehand. All that gone. But instead of moping, instead of feeling bad for himself, he made the best out of it. But these two were able to rip that out of him, to just squash that spirit out of him to where he wants to throw himself into the pool. So you're looking at 35 years for that. You were supposed to care for him and love him and keep him encouraged, feed him and keep him nourished, keep him clean. And you failed to do that. And spiritually, the other guy was supposed to make sure that he had his identity in Christ. He knew who he was in Christ. He knew that God loved him, that he had hope and he had peace. You both failed him. So whether he drove himself in or you helped drive him in, you're responsible for his death. And so that's my take on it. You're both responsible for Micah and Chris. And I believe in the name of Jesus Christ, you will both be paying for it. On this earth, you will not be seeing 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, skipping down the streets of Myrtle Beach, all happy. No way. There's no way. You're not going to have that. You could talk about it all you want. You could go out to dinner and you could play house all you want. That's temporary. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it won't be long. Because you snuff those two out. Those two bright lights that gave hope and inspiration to many others. You couldn't stand it. So you made sure you snuffed them out. Well, your turn. Now God's going to snuff you out. That's how I see it. So there's my take, guys. What say you? That it wasn't accidental and about family. Deputy coroner, let me get her. Hold on. This is Tamara. Deputy coroner acknowledged that it was a lie, that it wasn't accidental. Oh boy, and about family. It was not accidental. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, God bless this coroner. What were the years? Well, 2021 was Chris, and 2024 was Micah. So what is that? It's 3 years. 3 years' time. That was the audio you heard. You said you thought it was someone else telling that was the coroner to me. Okay. Crystal, I don't know. I can't tell if it's raising hands or, to me, it looks like she's waving to someone. I don't know what she's doing there, but no matter what it is, it's inappropriate for that moment. That's how I see it. But like I said, there's that information about there are South Carolina laws, and I'm sure there's federal laws that would back that up as well, since the feds are. She was praising Jesus that her husband passed. Oh, gosh, that just... I have to say, in that situation, you would have to medicate me and put me in the ambulance. Okay? There would be 2 ambulances, one for him and one for me. Okay? I just would not be a good... I wouldn't be good. I wouldn't be good. I would not be able to forget it. I'd be screaming out to God. I would be beside myself. There would be no throwing my hands up in the air and praising God. It wouldn't be happening. So I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. I just don't. 21 years of having to inspire other people leads me to think that he had accepted his plight. And as long as he was being cared for the things that he couldn't do for himself, he was fine. And he went on to do other things that were productive. And as long as he was being productive, which he was fine. His sadness did not come from his condition. His sadness came from the betrayal. That's what it seemed like, the sadness, if he were sad, as she puts it. It came from the betrayal. And I don't blame him. And it wasn't just betrayal of having... I'm sure in his life he's had his heart broken. Or a girl, disappoint him. But it was more than that. When you have a man of God who was supposed to be representing Jesus Christ doing this with a woman who has vowed the rest of her life to you, and you see her decide, knowing that you need her to take care of you, your everyday care, and she's choosing to not take care of you. It'd be different if she, okay, let me put it this way. If she were a decent person and she went up to Chris and said, look, I'm not going to stop taking care of you because you need me, but I just don't feel the love anymore. I've fallen for somebody else. I have feelings for somebody else, but I'm not going to stop taking care of you because you need me. That's more humane. You know what I mean? That's being truthful. That's being honest. And I think for an honest person like Chris, he might have respected that more than just, I'm not going to care about your everyday needs. I'm not going to care that you need to be washed. I'm not going to care that you need to be fed. I'm not going to care that you need medication. I couldn't care less if you sit in the corner and rot. I'm going to go move on with my life. That's disgusting. That's inhumane. Yeah, that's because she worships him. Yeah. I can't with these two anymore. Yeah. What's this? That's a good question, April. Where was she the night before when she forgot? Well, Micah was still alive, so I don't know. Who knows? Bridget, he had his mother, his sister, and remember his father lived with them. It's not as if he did not have other people, that would have cared for him. So they ask a good question. If he was feeling this way, if you know that he was on meds that made him tired that morning, why weren't there? And if you really were that concerned about his sadness, as she puts it, he was so sad. He was so sad. So, okay, so if he was so sad, why didn't you put any kind of protective barrier mechanism between him and him hurting himself? Because she just didn't care. Because it was an advantage to you if he would have hurt himself. And to be honest with you, I feel it's an advantage either way. If he harmed himself, it was an advantage to them to move forward with their relationship. And if he went around spouting that he was feeling this way, it was an advantage to John Paul to remote control it into the pool. Allegedly. So either way, it's an advantage. Thank God the feds are involved. I got to tell you, thank God. I praise God. So like I said, they're painted into a corner. No matter how it turns out, they're not going to walk away from this. Somebody's going to have cuffs on their wrists. I don't know. You would have to ask Tamara. I have no idea. Sure, yeah. And it's more than just that. If your spouse knows that you depend on them for your everyday care, and they just decide to not care for you anymore, and there's nothing you could do about it, that wickedness, that meanness is something that's beyond, when you're a good person, it's beyond your understanding on how they can turn on you like that. It's so evil. It's so wicked. And that must have really threw him back to see her in that light. I don't think that describes him to want to go and end it, but I do believe that would make him say, oh my God, what the hell happened to this woman? Okay. Again, I'm not saying that it's not possible that he did this to himself. Okay. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, no matter what the MOD is, the mode of death, or manner of death, she's responsible, no matter how you look at it. Well, okay, so if you go according to Allison's affidavit, I really don't know how long these two, what year was it that the Skinners moved into Myrtle Beach? And how shortly thereafter did the affair start from that point? I think that he and Micah were already married. So I don't think he was with Allison. I think he was with Micah when this affair started. There was something in the affidavit that Allison had said that I found interesting. And I heard it yesterday. She had said Susie was one of his multiple affairs, or many affairs, or something like that. So this had been going on. He's been doing this. Many women. Susie's nobody special. Any woman that's been with him, you're nobody special. There's nobody special in John Paul's life. If you've convinced yourself that you're special, you're an idiot. you're on glue, because there's nobody special to John Paul except John Paul. Let me see what Mary says here. The longer it takes for the feds, the worse it's going to be for them. Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is I'm glad that the feds are looking into Chris's, because they have the resources, one, to locate the chair. They also have the resources to really sharpen that video, to really see what's going on that video much better than any of us can. They also have the ability to go after the police department. If the police department failed them, or if there's corruption going on, or if they're in somebody's pocket, they have the ability to go after and make them also suffer some consequences, which I think they should. And like I said, if you watch the video on A Sure Impact, you will hear that portion. It's really you'll become very angry when you hear how this cop, interviewer, detective, whatever the hell he was, bag boys at Publix have more professionalism than this guy. The way he was more comforting towards, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come of this. And this is what he's telling her as recent as February 2025. So they're still working on John Paul's behalf. These Keystone cops. Yes, they're all objects. Everything's a chess piece. Everyone's a chess piece. Do they? Yeah. Do they do better? Yeah, they're really not. I was watching a video last night, and it's by a detective. His name was Derek. He's actually covering the Amber Birbiglia case. And he seemed like a little questionable about the Myrtle Beach Police Department. He was being very kind, but you could tell in between the lines, even he was not impressed with their work. So, yeah, but I know it's all over, Mary. I've got a few police officers in my family, and they do have integrity, and it's very sad that they have to be mixed in with these losers who are so easily bought, so easily bought. And it's just people like that ruin it for everyone else, who do things for the right reasons. But anyway, there you go. I really truly believe that in this case, we're looking at, and let me just repeat it again for the sake of this show, South Carolina Code 43-35-85F. And this is called, I think it's called intentional homicide, or it's actually called negligent homicide. A person who knowingly and willfully neglects a vulnerable adult, resulting in that adult's death, is guilty of a felony, and upon conviction must be imprisoned for not more than 30 years. If intentional, which would be including hygiene, meds, nutrition, for example, they would be prosecuted under this statute. You would also include South Carolina Code 16-3-60, which would be involuntary manslaughter, which would be reckless disregard for the safety of another, resulting in their death, could carry another 5 years in prison. So I feel that that's very, very important. I hope that the feds are taking that into consideration, or whomever can charge her with any kind of criminality for Chris's passing, no matter what their investigation turns out to be. And that's it. That's where we are right now. So I just, if you haven't seen the video of Tamara and her mom from last night, please go watch it on Assure Impact on YouTube. And also Fitz News article, I'll try to go over that tomorrow. I don't know. No, I don't think so, because it really, I don't know. It wasn't really coercive control. It's more neglect. It's more of a neglect, and there's laws. We just went over it, which resulted in death, that cover that. So it's really more neglect on Susie and Chris's part. With Micah, it was the breaking into her social media accounts and her email, and going into her text messages and acting like you're her, and putting tracking devices on her car and sticking stuff in her tires, and keeping money from her, and forcing her to be drugged, and forcing her to go into hospitalization, and having people tracking her and trying to manipulate her to go back to him, or they're getting paid to enforce her to go back to him. Law enforcement that wouldn't help protect her against him because they're getting paid, and obviously now we can see that they really do work for him. And there's so much more to that coercive control bill we could go over, but I'm not going to go over that now. We're at 43 minutes at this point. I got to tell you, by listening to her voice, it was like a cackling witch. I could not listen to her for longer than 5 minutes. I just was like, oh my gosh, please shut her off. I was like, oh my God, enough. She's just like a victim, queen of the victims, It's all about me. That's probably why they're so perfect together, Mr. and Mrs. Narcissist. Yeah. Let me see here. I just got another source come forward with news. Just told Susie has a big old diamond on her hand. Oh, does she? Are we sure it's real? Jeez. Well, that's great. You know what? Like I said, let them play house. Let them do what they got to do to act like, oh, really? Wow. Let them play house. Let them do what they got to do right now. Because it's all crumbling down. I'm sure that John Paul is sitting in his robe right now going, she said this a million times and nothing's happened. He's still under federal investigation. Nothing has changed. Nothing has stopped. So just because they haven't shown up at the door doesn't mean that they're not going to show up at the door. The only difference is that his girlfriend has just been included. I don't know about that. I have no idea. I've heard that, and I don't see any proof of that. So I think that's just a bunch of games. I think the people that put that out like to play games with other people. Yeah, I really didn't pay much attention to that case. Maybe I should have. I really didn't pay much attention to it, but now I feel like maybe I should have, because it was just a bunch of nutcases. The only reason why I paid attention to this case was for Micah. I never ever did it for the sake of John Paul or Susie. God help us. Yeah, that's all right. She could walk around with 10 diamonds on her hands. It doesn't matter to me. Does excellent. Look, I don't know if you're watching. That's an excellent question, Tamara, but that is an absolute fabulous question. Beautiful. Alyssa, that was awesome. That made my day. Yeah, absolutely. They are cult focused. Yeah, all cults. Jesus Christ has nothing to do with soiled mock. Jesus Christ, the Word of God, or Christianity has nothing to do with the Millers, Susie Skinner, or anything to do with soiled mock, or any of these ministries that are associated, the Duttons, or any of these Christian channels or ministries that float around them. They're all cults. They're all cults. So anybody that stands on a pseudo altar talking about the mafia, Jesus has nothing to do with that. I wish he'd show up and start flipping tables. I really do. I wish God would just show up and start flipping tables. Oh, I could see that. Yeah. Yeah. But remember now, we just showed you that video of the possible marks on his neck. And then there was a necklace that broke that he had to go and have fixed. So, some believe that he had that necklace ripped off his neck by her. Well, Cindy, now remember, he used to get $100,000 a month, and we all cost him a lot of money. Now he only gets $10,000 a month. You really expect him to live on a measly $10,000 a month? Come on, Cindy. What's wrong with you? So what that means is they can't be forced to testify against each other. That's what that means. Okay? That's all that means. A wife can still testify against the husband. A husband can still testify against the wife if they choose. Is it brand new? Is it like a 2025, 26? It's funny because, yeah, right, Cindy? That poor guy. Sometimes, guys, it looks really, really bad before it gets really, really good. Meaning, for us, it looks really, really bad. And for them, it looks really, really good right before it strikes. Oh, all the more faster for him to hit another person. That's great. Yeah. His words in sales. What's that for? 10,000? Oh, I don't understand, Jill. Yeah. I don't understand what that means. Well, okay, so what I'm trying to say is if we were to look at this from the materialization point of view, we go, oh, forget it. He's just going to get everything he wants and they win and they got to ruin these 2 lives and all the other lives around them and nothing's ever going to happen. We're never going to get justice. And oh my gosh, let's feel bad for ourselves. And they go riding off into the sunset and we all feel bad and we're licking our wounds and whatever, right? And then all of a sudden God goes, oh yeah? And he comes right out of the blue and the feds come and destroy their lives and seize their assets and put them in jail and make a mockery and ruin their reputations. They're splattered all over the news and the newspapers. And, you know, they don't see each other because one's in a men's prison, the other one's in a female prison. You know what I'm saying? So let them enjoy what they're going through, what they have now. It's temporary. Totally temporary. This means absolutely nothing. Stirring her hand. Are they? What island are they supposed to be going to? What island is this? Because neither one, at least now both are being investigated by the feds, so neither one can leave the country. Oh, did he? Oh, sales. What is he selling? Should we get the DEA involved? Because we know he doesn't have anything else to sell. No, that's what he had in my lawsuit, that he was able to get from his church ministry $100,000 a month. And because I affected his lithium, yeah. It went from $100,000 a month to $10,000 a month. Book sales, his book was for free. He needs to smoke another one. If you remember, his book there was no cost to it. So if he's saying book sales, he's another, oh my gosh, this guy comes up with lies every 5 minutes. Yeah, no, that was what the lawsuit said, that I was costing him, well, all of us, it was just copy and paste, the same crap. That we were making it that his ministry couldn't grow because we were scaring them off. And so where he was able to get $100,000 in donations and tithe and offering, now he was only getting $10,000. And so I was looking for my violin to start playing when I saw that. But anyhow, yeah. So there you go. So, okay, well, she can walk around with her pseudo fake rock. That's okay. That's all right. They're only going to just, the feds are just going to seize it when they arrest her. So let her enjoy. Let her enjoy it. Anyhow, that's where we are. And so I'm probably, unless something new happens, go over the Fitz news article tomorrow. If you haven't seen the article, please go over it. It's on their website. And what's really cool is on the very top, you can actually click and it'll read the article to you. If you're like me and you don't feel like reading it, it'll actually read it to you. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Robbie Harvey has post about JP book. Not my fault. I have no idea about any of that. Our church's money. Well, you would think that, Debbie. You would think that. He should only be drawing in a salary. Well, remember, this is a cult. This is not a regular church. So he was the church. It's not about Jesus Christ at all. So he used that money, I'm sure, in a very not in a very honest way. Let's just put it that way. I'm more than positive he used it on things that most pastors don't use their money on. Well, it wasn't 70 members. If you remember when Micah passed, there were 700 people going. And about when Micah had passed and he made the announcement, over 600 of them went stampeding out of there and left. So it wasn't Anne's fault that they left the church. It was the fact that he had eliminated his wife. That was the reason why they all left the church. And that he is under federal investigation. So he can look in the mirror and blame himself. Not me and not the rest of the people that he tried to blame. And so that was what the purpose was for the lawsuits, his way of trying to make money. I'm sure he found another fraudulent way to make money. You know, he's got that other guy, Cask and Crime and Frask and I don't know, whatever hell his name is, that's also helping him try to make money with his book. So who knows? But I couldn't care less because it like I said, they're on borrowed time. They're all on borrowed time right now. And now that we know, I mean, we heard it out of the mouth. And like I said, if you haven't seen the video with the Skinners, please go watch it because they play a recording of the coroner. You know, basically, I mean, they're basically saying, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. It was the Skinners who had said the feds are involved with, I think it was this. You know what? I have to watch the video again. I can't remember who had said it, but it was said in that video that the feds are now involved. So now you got the feds involved with both Chris's case and the feds are involved with Micah's case. So somebody's going to get arrested. I have a feeling it's both of them are going to get arrested. So there you go. He has other business interests. That's true. But I don't think they're legal. Well, you know, if it's a lease, he also might still have interest in that piano bar. So he might still be getting money from that. And just, you know, other illegal things. Remember, this guy's got his hand in other things. You know, he might not really believe that he's under investigation. He may not believe that anything's going to happen to him. And why? Because in the past, all criminal activities that he's done, he's gotten away with. There's been no consequence. So he probably figures there's going to be no consequence here either. He probably figures he's not, you know, going to see jail time. Think about it. It was November 1st when the raid happened. What are we on? May 28th? So he's probably thinking, oh, these people are still talking about it and we haven't been arrested and nobody's shown up, so nothing's going to happen. Okay. Convince yourself of that, brother. We'll see who wins in the end. We'll see. Welcome back, Tamara. Yeah. Oh, well, that's lovely. Okay, well, she'll just be one of many. I hope she likes being one of many. Mr. and Mrs. Harem. I mean, really, I don't know if you heard me say it, but I mean, she's just one of many. You know? That's a good question. I do feel bad for the kids. I feel very bad for them. Does Tamara, do you know the answer to that question? Do you see the girls? He's not faithful. He's not faithful to her. He's not faithful to anybody but himself. Baby number 3. Wow. Wow. Gee whiz. Those poor kids. Got to pray that the next generation, that, they do better, that they have a better chance, that the curse is broken. Oh yeah, we all do. We all do. And let's keep praying for them, because let me say this. When you've got the feds involved, they don't get involved unless there's going to be an arrest. They don't waste their time. I'm talking about federal money here, okay? When they get involved, there's going to be an indictment. So you can pretty much say to yourself, this is it. With that being said, those children, and I know they're young ladies. I know that they're on their way to be an adult, the both of them. But if you really think about it, they're going to lose both parents. They lost their dad, and now they're going to lose their mom. Okay. Now, the full interview, that was not on your show last night. Is that something that's separate? Are you releasing that separate? Or is that what Fitz News is releasing? Yeah. But no. Yeah, I got to tell you, I have to agree with you, though. Okay, that's a personal thing, and so that's one thing, but I do agree with you on, I kind of wish that they would not release the witness statements. I'm hoping, Fitz News, if you hear me, that you hear me reiterate that. Please do not, because I don't want you to compromise any potential court cases that are coming up, and that might happen. It may not. But I don't think the feds would appreciate that if they're looking to build a case and speak to these witnesses, and you're putting out their statements. Yes, there was a lot of inconsistencies, and I was not impressed with that detective at all. You could tell he's in the pocket of somebody. Really pathetic. Really, really pathetic. Yeah, no, I know I spy, but that's not the point. Whether they're 25 or 15 or 5, there's still, if and when, and I'm going to say when because there's better chance of when than if, that Susie gets indicted and charged and indicted and thrown to prison, they lose their mother and father. I mean, she's still alive, yes, and they can go visit her in prison, but they still lose their parents. And that's another loss. It's another loss for them. What did these kids do? Nothing. They didn't do anything wrong. So, and it's kind of a loss for the Skinner family as well, because they've got to deal with the pain of what these two girls have to go through. I pray when that happens that these two girls get, stay close, if not in proximity, meaning location more than anything, to the Skinner family, so that they can comfort each other and be there for each other when this happens, because it's going to happen. With the feds involved, absolutely. The feds are not going to put in those resources and nothing come out of it. It's not going to happen. Just forget it. That's why I keep saying John Paul can act like he's a free man all he wants. The feds are not going to put in all this effort to walk away. It doesn't work that way. Oh, they're born a girl. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, no, Jill, I know that. And you know what? That's their MO. Everything's a conspiracy theory. You know what the words conspiracy theory mean for people? That's for people who don't have the intelligence or to they don't have a good argument. Thank you, hon. They don't have a good argument against something that's said. So when they don't have an intelligent argument, they either come back with insults or they come back with that term, conspiracy theory. And they don't even really know what it means. Please name me in the chat one conspiracy theory that you've heard that has been proven wrong. I'll wait. You got 5 minutes. Because there isn't any. There isn't any. I'm sorry if I said 2 girls. I don't even know why I said that. But 2 kids. I'll say 2 kids. And the kids, I hope that they, if they're not already by location close to you guys, I hope that they do. And I'm talking, for the sake of holidays and events and stuff like that in the aftermath of their mother possibly and most likely ending up in jail, because she's probably going to end up in jail if the feds are involved, and they are involved. So it's too late. When the feds get involved, it's too late. So they can walk around with diamonds and trucks and new condos and do whatever the hell they want. Enjoy while you can. I'm not impressed by that. It means nothing to me. It's just more stuff for the feds to seize when the time is right. That's all that means. If you guys are still involved with the, and we can add Chris too if you guys want. We could add Chris to the online protest. And if you guys want, keep sharing. I'll keep doing it, and all you guys need to do is just share. Click the button share. It really takes you less than a half second. And what that does is that shares all the people I tagged. And so if you like, starting tomorrow morning, I can add Chris Skinner to that online protest. Now that the feds are involved, they'll see Micah Francis Miller, and they'll see Chris Skinner. And tagged to that, yes, is the president, is Bondi, is Patel, is Bongino, true. But I've got the FBI, I got the U.S. Marshals, we've got Homeland Security, we've got the ATF, we got DEA, but we also have SLED. We have South Carolina GOP, we've got South Carolina government, we've got Nancy Mace, we've got Luke Rankin, we've got Goldfinch, we've got Lindsey Graham. Did I say FBI? Yeah, the FBI. I don't know why I forgot them. And I've even been tagging in some of the platforms, the Charlotte FBI, the Washington FBI. So, and then just straight up the federal FBI. So, yeah, we're a lot of people. And then, of course, the news. Newsweek, New York Post, Fitz News also is part of that. Nancy Grace, always have to make sure she's part of that. So if you want, we'll start adding Chris tomorrow. Okay. All right. So we'll start adding Chris. But I need you guys, please, to share the online protests. Okay. And now, if Tamara's okay with it, start sharing it on her. If she's okay with it, Facebook Assure Impact, so we can get more people to start really push the feds to do something about Chris's case, as well as Micah. Okay, guys, we're past an hour. Share, share, share. There you go. There's Tamara saying share, share. Robeson County. I don't know. Add them. I don't know what they would do. They're not really involved anymore. You want to tag them, you can. I mean, when you share, you can always add whomever you want in your share. I don't know if you guys know that. When you share a post, in your sharing, you're actually able to add anybody you want. So you can do that. So if you feel you want to add Robeson County, you go right ahead. Whomever you want. You want to add Horry County, go right ahead. You want to add Myrtle Beach, whomever you can think of that I forget, be my guest. Okay. So like I said, we'll probably go over Fitz News's article tomorrow. Please go watch the Assure Impact show from last night so you can hear the full show. It's on there right now, so you can't miss it. And you can see the name right here, Assure Impact. It's right here on YouTube. So make sure that you go see that show. The Fitz News article is on their website. I would assume that's fitznews.com. And so until I see you guys again, please stay safe and God bless.